Hey, it's Dr. Schmidt. So I have a really interesting subject here. It's about red meat and lactic acidosis, which is the mechanism of chronic disease. Well researched prior to World War II. And I'll give you a little background on this. And this is shareable with people who are interested in the health benefits of red meat and also people who are interested in detoxification. So here we have a cell. There's 4 parts to this lactic acidosis cycle. And I'm going to explain what lactic acidosis means. But there's 4 parts. First is the cells burning sugar. And that's number 1. That creates waste products. And there's 2 basic forms of those waste products. Number 1 is hydrogen, which is acid. And then number 2 is these 4 things right here. And they float around in the blood. The first one's called lactate. So if you put lactate together with acid, that's called lactic acidosis. And that was well studied in the 1930s. And they came up with some great supplements to fix that. And you can't fix it with medications. You can't fix it with baking soda. They can't fix it at the hospital. You got to actually fix it before you're going to the hospital by eating the right foods. And I'm going to get there. So when your body's making lactate from burning sugar and from burning grains and excess carbohydrates or accelerated glycolysis, 75% of lactate gets turned back into sugar by the liver right here. 25% floats around your body. That's if you're relatively healthy. And if you're not healthy, it might be way less. Maybe only 50% gets converted to sugar and reused. So how do you clean the blood up of these 4 waste products? Well, here in the red font, I put juicing vegetables. I made this probably a year ago, but I have to update this. And then the 4th part here is liver. So liver function has to be good. And I wrote down some supplements that were made in 1934 or 34 or 35. And these supplements have liver in them. But also you want to eat liver. And eating liver feeds your liver. You also want to detoxify if you got some metals or chemicals. If you work in a toxic environment, you got to detoxify on a regular basis. And you got to fix mold. If you have mold in your house, you've been exposed to mold. The CDC says that 96% of sinus infections are actually mold. And I put etc. So there's a lot of tools. There's herbs. There's milk thistle, for example, that protect the liver and clean the liver. So this here, here's lactate with acid. That's lactic acidosis. This is the lactic acid cycle. It's also called cachexia, which means holding in one's power or withholding power. That's the ancient Greek definition of the word. And so this is how people die. You have cancer cachexia when people are wasting away, or cardiac cachexia after a heart attack, and they're wasting away. They can't eat enough food. Their body is withering away. There's also a term called sugar acidosis from the 1960s. Sugar plus acid causing this acidosis cycle. So not many people have heard about sugar acidosis, but I came upon that through the readings of old books. So I'm incorporating red meat into this. With the studying that I've been doing, here's where red meat comes into play. It's important actually for all 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. So number 1, you want the cell to stop burning sugar. So you get into ketosis. If you eat nothing but meat and red meat every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which would actually be like one or 2 meals a day only. But if you eat nothing but meat, you'll be in ketosis. And then here's the hydrogen. That's the acid. So how does meat affect the acid? So let's say you're working out or you're sprinting, your muscles are sore for a day or 2. That's acid. That's hydrogen sitting in your muscles. That's not lactic acid. It's just acid. So red meat is red because it has myoglobin, also known as heme iron. Heme iron brings oxygen and iron to your muscles. Plants do not have heme iron. So the oxygen brought in to the muscles combines with hydrogen and it makes water, H2O. So I've been in ketosis. I'm eating more red meat than 5 months ago, and I have no soreness. I can work out for an hour, 2 hours straight, blasting my muscles at the gym, and I have no soreness whatsoever. So I have enough heme iron to prevent this. Now, in my older therapies, what I wrote down in the red ink from a year ago, I said increase the oxygen by hydrogen peroxide, hyperbaric oxygen therapy, deep breathing, ozone therapy, any kind of oxygen therapy. But these things weren't available to our ancestors except for the deep breathing part. But they had red meat So that prevented their muscles from getting sick and sore all the time. And this includes fibromyalgia. So women get the chronic muscle soreness because they're just filled with acid. And men get heart, angina and problems in the heart. They're filled with acid. So add in red meat. I've had plenty of guys do this. They eat a steak and they feel great and their pain goes away. I've had many people do that. Okay, so let's get to this. How do you clean the toxins out of the blood with meat, and how do you help the liver? Well, I came upon a website from a patient. She sent this to me. It's about a condition called pyroluria, and there's a double-digit percentage of people who have this problem. What it is, it's where the body cannot use vitamin B6, biotin, and zinc. So this situation blocks those nutrients from being used in the cells, number one. And number two, it prevents those, it pushes those nutrients out of the body. So those nutrients are needed to make heme iron. And heme iron is needed to make the detoxification particles, if you will, for cleaning your body out. Now there's two things I want to talk about related to detoxification. And these are technical terms, but the first one is called P450, which is an enzyme. It's called a cytochrome P450 enzyme. And number two is called CYP. So those are two ways that the cells clean the toxins out, and they both need heme iron to be made. So let me give you a couple quotes from this website about this. I'll put the link below, but the website says proper balance of heme are required for many other body functions as well, including oxygen regulation, electron transfer, which are two very critical homeostatic functions. Oxygen regulation means how well can you take in oxygen from your lungs. Myself and other patients have eaten more red meat, and the lungs are clearer, and they can breathe easier, and they're not short of breath. When people have a heart attack, they're short of breath. When people have a panic attack or anxiety, they're short of breath. That gets fixed with red meat and more heme. Heme takes the oxygen from the lungs, grabs onto it, sends it to the muscles or sends it to the cells, and they're using oxygen better. And when it says it's important for electron transfer, that's mitochondria making energy. You have anywhere maybe 2,000 to 10,000 mitochondria per cell, and your body makes ATP, which is the fuel for your body, through a process of electron transfer. So heme is very important for your mitochondria to work. If your mitochondria don't work, then your cell's going to be burning sugar all the time and not fat very well, and you get into the accelerated glycolysis. So eating red meat helps with electron transport in the mitochondria, which is absolutely fascinating. All right, next it says, it has been discovered that heme is depleted by stress and heavy metal exposure. There's a toxicity. So if you have stress or you maybe have mercury fillings in your mouth and you have heavy metals pouring into your body, that depletes the heme. The heavy metals are taken out of the body with the P450 mechanism, and heme is used to make the P450 mechanism. So you have a deep depletion of detoxification if you don't have enough heme. Now regarding the CYP detoxification process, that gets rid of petrochemicals, pharmaceutical substances, toxic hormone byproducts, and plastics. So this would also include agricultural chemicals, such as herbicides and pesticides, because they act like estrogen. Plastics act like estrogen. So again, heme is important to make the CYP detoxification process, to get rid of the plastics and the agricultural chemicals, the makeup, and those chemical toxins. And the last part it says here, with increased heavy metal exposure risk, caused in large part by the displacement of zinc in this condition of pyroluria, people afflicted with pyroluria are also facing increased risk of all diseases and conditions associated with heavy metal toxicity, from cancer to dementia, heart disease, and diabetes. And then talk a little bit about copper toxicity, which is a growing trend in functional medicine. So red meat fixes this, it fixes that, it cleans up your blood through the detoxification pathways P450 and CYP, and then it also helps the liver clean the body out of those toxic metals and chemicals. So now I have to update this. Instead of this, in this red font, and here, and here, And here, I could just put red meat, red meat, red meat, red meat. I can't put onions, 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 onions. I can't put the Impossible Burger, the Impossible Burger, the Impossible Burger, the Impossible Burger. It's not good enough. The Impossible Burger has heme in it. They took soy and did a DNA manipulation of that, and they put that in their product. And they also put in really bad, nasty vegetable oils, and of course it's a soy-derived product. So avoid the Impossible Burger. But the reason why it tastes like beef is because they put in heme iron. So some people would argue, well, red meat is toxic, it's acidic, it putrefies in the colon. That's not true. So I just proved that red meat is not toxic, it actually detoxifies. Now, is it acidic? No, not really. If you want acidic food, eat grains. Grains are by far way more acidic. And the acid-alkaline balance of your food, in your meals is not nearly as important as what you might think. What is important is how much H plus you have in your muscles. Red meat gets that out. It cleans your body of that acid. Now there's different locations in your body with different pH levels. You just want to eat really good food. You want to detox, you want to fix the mold, you want to eat some liver. You got to do some ketosis, you can exercise, do the natural things, and your body's pH goes back into balance. And does red meat putrefy? Well, if your stomach doesn't work very well, or if your gallbladder doesn't work very well, but why would those two organs not work very well in the first place? Probably because you've been eating bread and rice for so many years. Another situation is if you get constipation from eating meat, you got to eat more salt. So there are tribes around the world that have consumed 100 grams of salt per day. And if you consume 2 teaspoons of Celtic sea salt or Himalayan rock salt, the pink stuff, 2 teaspoons is only 8.5 grams of salt. So even if you eat 2 teaspoons, you might be super deficient in salt. Well, that fixes any constipation that you get from eating red meat, any cramping you get from ketosis, or any sort of keto flu. Salt is the solution, and it helps fix dehydration. And that's, the common symptom. I see this about 20% of the time when people get into ketosis. They get dehydrated, their body fluids kind of dry up, and they need salt, they need water, and they need oil. So those are the 3 things that fix dehydration. It's not just more water. It's salt and water and oil. And where can you get the oil from, or the fat? You can get that from red meat too. So there's my little tirade on red meat and detoxification and stopping lactic acidosis. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you like this, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe. And we help people in this office figure out their health puzzle. We are puzzle solvers. And if you want some assistance with that, you can email or call. The information is below. So please share with people interested in red meat and detoxification and the cytochrome P450 and lactic acidosis, the mechanism of chronic disease. It all is coming together, and it's really interesting.